Good afternoon and welcome to 3 Talk. I'm Noeleen Nasangu. Have you ever thought about the saying, what goes around comes around? This saying relates to the law of karma. This law is something we have all heard about, but do we really know what karma is? Today, we will be discussing the spiritual laws of the universe. Where do they come from? What do they mean? And how do they affect our lives? The laws of abundance, clarity, discrimination, karma and dharma, and many more. We're not live tonight, so we can't take your calls or SMSs. Please welcome Diana Cooper, a healer, therapist, and international author of the book A Little Light on the Spiritual Laws, spiritual teacher and shaman Lionel Berman, and energy facilitator Darren Wasserman. Thank you so much for coming in. Now, let me start with you, ladies first. When we speak about spiritual laws, what exactly are we talking about?
These are the energies of the universe, and they govern our lives, so that every single thing you do is related to something else. And when we talk about the spiritual laws, we're talking about the higher energies that can change our lives completely. If you follow the spiritual laws, then your life must be happy, healthy, and successful.
Does everybody know about the spiritual laws, Darren?
Well, it depends on their belief systems, I guess. I guess everyone has their own set of spiritual laws, and then they will practice it accordingly to their belief system.
So what you're saying is that a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, a Buddhist will all have, those different religions will all have different spiritual laws.
Well, they all come down to the same spiritual laws in essence, but I guess it's the way they practice it will be slightly different. There are different ceremonies around the laws, but the laws themselves are the same. It's just interpreted differently.
And where do they come from?
Well, I actually believe that they belong in that stream of consciousness, but that it's very, very ancient laws from perhaps the time that that creation happened, because they are the laws that determine all of creation, and all the things that have happened, will happen, are happening, whatever it is, they do determine that. I don't think that they are necessarily laws that are kind of made up by people as such, but they come from those spiritual realms. They come from the God energy, from the Godhead. I think that they are core to the understanding of that Godheadness, if you like.
All right, you said Godhead, God energy. Explain that.
God energy being the energy that has created all things, that is all things. Right. So it is both having created it and is all things. That's how I see those laws as coming down as part of the story.
All right, Diana, you wanted to add something?
As I understand it, in Atlantis, Thoth, the mighty Thoth, channeled the spiritual laws from the intergalactic council that was setting up what was happening on Earth. And he set up many, many spiritual laws to describe the energies and how people could live at the highest possible levels. And then Jesus Christ simplified it, although I'm not particularly a Christian, Jesus Christ simplified it to 33 spiritual laws and 3 transcendent laws. So it's 36 altogether. And when you follow those laws, that's a guideline for your life. Otherwise, if you don't understand the laws of Earth, then it's a bit like going on the roads and not having a clue what the traffic laws are. You get your life in a mess. But if you absolutely know simple things like everything that you do, think, or say comes back to you at some time. It may not be immediate, it may take a lifetime or two, but you never spiritually get away with anything. Then you start to watch what you do. You know that you're always going to come back and have to repay it.
Right. Now, what's the difference between the spiritual laws of the universe and our moral being? Is there a difference, Darren?
Well, I guess for me, the spiritual laws of the universe just keep us progressing along a spiritual path. Because down here, we are in a world of order. Up in the spiritual universe, there is no order, there's no time. Here we're confined by these things of time and space and order. So these spiritual laws just help us within this order to progress. That's why there is that law of cause and effect. Like Dana was saying, we will come back afterwards and repeat it because there is a spiritual progression. I guess the moral laws come more into society in their belief systems in terms of what's wrong or right, which are debatable.
Right.
But these spiritual laws are not debatable.
Okay. But is there a book that's You know, I didn't want to look because as I asked that question, I knew what was going to happen.
Well, this has just come out in a new cover. Many people may have it in an old cover, but this contains the answers.
But you would probably say, I mean, it is obvious that not everybody will have access to Diana Cooper's book.
No, but you can get it from a library. Everybody can access
The world over?
I'm sure. If anybody wants something enough and they focus on it, the law of attention, then that must come to them. And if people realize this, they would stop. I think this is one of the things that would change people's lives more than anything. People tend to resist what they don't want. And if you resist what you don't want, you focus on it and you get what you don't want. If you keep saying, I don't like this job, you keep that horrible job. If you then decide to put attention on what you do want, the law of attention ensures that you get it. And so if you simply decide to cut buts and knots and doubts out of your life and focus on where you're going, the vision of what you want, the angels and the entire spiritual hierarchy will come behind you and enable you to get that in your life.
All right, Mlana, we're going to catch up with you a little later on in the show. We're not live tonight, so we can't take your calls or SMSs. After the break, we'll discuss the spiritual laws of life. This is Free Talk, your live afternoon talk show. The spiritual law of resistance says what you resist persists in your life and drains you of energy. Please welcome Dipti Naran from the Brahma Kumaris Institute. Thank you very much for coming in. What I've just said, do you believe in that?
Absolutely. And I think in today's world, people have a lot of small talk about what they don't want. And it's amazing today's small talk that people have is about what's wrong and how their job is and how people are doing things that are wrong. And because they're fighting it through an energy that is negative, it's going to persist. I've seen in lives when people have changed that and welcomed the energies of life in their being, life has taken care of them. Amazingly, I believe what you resist will persist.
What you resist will persist. Now let's come back to Diana Cooper's book on the laws of the universe. You've divided the book into 4 sections. Just tell us briefly on the book.
Right. So the book is basically the 33 laws that I described plus the 3 transcendent laws. But I've divided them into the basic laws of life, as above, so below, and that sort of thing. And then there's the laws of creation, which is about how we manifest abundance, how we create prosperity in our lives, and how we get the clarity to make our lives move forward. And then there's the laws of higher awareness, which are about affirmations and balancing, and they include the laws of karma. Then there are the higher frequency laws, and these are about miracles and healing and how we can literally change our lives completely by changing our energy.
I like that word, energy. But let's just go through these laws of life, and I'll start with you, Darren. As above, so below. What does that mean? And how, if I'm not living my life according to that, how do I begin to?
Well, if I can just go back to the energy, the word that you use, energy. That law, as with a lot of laws, what I enjoy to do is bring them in to what I'm feeling and what I'm thinking, as well as getting in contact with the angels, because a lot of the time we get in contact with the angels and that's very higher consciousness stuff. It's very, if I can use the word shua stuff, which sometimes is very frustrating because we're still living our day-to-day lives. So what for me helps bringing that in, and that comes into context with as above, so below, is becoming more aware of what we're thinking and what we're feeling. Just taking time out in a day to actually see what went on today, to seeing how we reacted to life, how we didn't react, how we acted. And that just helps bring in that higher consciousness energy into our days. And that just helps us integrate more with life.
I think it's also about saying that the higher beings feel exactly as we do. So if for instance, you give a child something and the child says, I don't like that, you feel you don't want to give any more. But if, on the other hand, the child beams with delight and says thank you from their heart, you want to give it more.
Right.
And the universe is exactly the same. They will want to give you more. There are also other things like you don't love one child more than another.
Right.
You treat them differently because of their needs. You treat them equally but differently because of their needs. The universe is exactly the same. They will give us according to our needs, but their love for us will be identical.
All right. Another law, as within, so without.
Yes, a law again that really dominates today's world. Sometimes people say around us, why there's so much of violence? Why is everyone so angry? Why is everyone so upset? But you know, our inner world reflects in our outer world. And if I want to create a world around me that's beautiful, that's positive, that is filled with deep love, it doesn't start out there. It starts in here. I need to work on myself and put that inner space in order. And the drama of my life around me will then present itself to me with the things that I hold inside. We are in this world where we blame people a lot, and we blame them and say, because of this person, I'm feeling like this. Because of this situation, I'm always stuck. I don't believe that.
It's you. It
It's
starts
you.
with you.
And anything that you're seeing outside, I find for myself, I just stop for a moment and ask myself, what's it inside of me that is triggering this? And then come to peace with yourself. Develop that inner world to be beautiful and positive and powerful. We can do it. It's a choice. And then the outside world will take care of you. I believe in that 100%.
I absolutely agree with it, T. But can I also say for Christmas that it's a time of peace, and the one way to keep yourself totally safe so that nobody and nothing can harm you is by finding that peace and harmlessness within. When you're just radiating an aura of total peace and harmlessness, nothing can attack you, no one can hurt you in any way. You are totally safe.
But it sounds so easy because you guys have practiced it. You are at peace with yourselves. You think about the things that you're going to say, you're going to do. But for some of us, it's almost scary because we're living in this world which is constantly rushing, and it's not possible to do all the things that you guys say are so easy. So how do you do
Well,
it?
that's why I go back to the point of just taking time out within a day to get that stillness time. And once again, it will vary according to your beliefs how you acquire that. It might be sitting in a garden, it might be in the bath, it might be in your room, various music. There are a lot of physical things to help with the stillness, be it music, be it incense, whatever you choose, candles. And that stillness allows you to actually feel what is going on. And then obviously reading certain books, I mean, I guess like Diana's, in terms of helping that, in terms of to actually dissect what's going on.
Right. And what if you're bombarded by negativity? My boss is cruel to me. I have not managed to get the account that I was meant to get. My husband is treating me extremely badly. I've lost my child. So these are all negative thoughts that are bombarding you.
I think when we're driving a car and we sense danger, what do? We slow down. We apply brakes. We're supposed to.
Right.
It's the most sensible thing to do. But what happens in our life? When we sense danger, we put top speed, you know? And so we just go head on into a situation. Our thinking is just a habit. And if I can stop and talk to myself and say, hang on, just with love, I need to take care of myself. And the same way you slow down the car, slow down your thoughts. It's a choice. We're nobody's rubbish bin. We can make our mind a jewelry box or a rubbish bin. The choice is ours.
That's so beautiful. The law of request.
It's just very simple. You need to ask for what you want. The angels and higher beings are all standing around us, waiting for us to ask for what we do want, and then they can help us. But they can watch us making a terrible mess of our lives and not do anything because we have free will.
How would you interpret the law of request?
Exactly the same way. We have to ask, and sometimes what that comes back to in the feelings-wise is not deserving of asking. And we have to look at our deservability because we don't feel we have the right to ask, even within the simple things of our lives. So how can we bug the angels? But it's not like that. The angels are there. You know, within that world, time does not exist. They can be with all of us at the same time, which is beautiful. And it just brings that deservability into action.
And what if you don't get what you have asked for? Because some of us have requests that are really ludicrous.
Life will always give you what you need, not always what you want. We have to be careful of these two words. life will never deprive you of what you need, because we are the children of the universe. And God is the supreme being, will always take care of his children.
Right.
We will get, if you look back in your life, you've always got what you needed. Maybe not what you wanted. And it's that that makes us peaceless. And what you needed may have given you the best gifts later on in your life for your growth.
All right, it's what you need.
How you ask is also
Yes.
important.
How should you ask?
Well, how not to ask is by saying, I ask my angel for this. Every night I say to my angel, give me this, and they still don't listen to me. You know, that's being a toddler, having a tantrum. But if you make yourself quiet and centered and get really clear about what's right for you, then ask from that centered space, then the universe moves behind you. As soon as you're clear, the law of clarity says, then everything starts to move to open that door for you.
And do you know what I find? Sometimes if you're not clear, you can just ask for your highest good. Because sometimes we're not sure what we need at certain times. And then it's just to be aware within our day-to-day reality what comes up for us. Certain people that speak to us, etc., etc. The so-called coincidences. Because that's how the angels act.
Yeah.
And never to become desperate. Anything in life you become desperate about will never come to you. Try it, see it, look back in your life. Anything you're desperate about in life will never come. Come at peace with yourself and put your energies in the right place, and life will serve you.
Gee, you make it sound so easy.
You can have anything that you want, but if you're attached to it, which is what we're saying, then there's a cord goes from you to that thing and it emotionally tugs you and pulls you around. It has control over you. So we need to detach from the needs and the desires, and then we can have what we want. See, the universe is very happy for us to have a beautiful house, a wonderful relationship, anything our heart desires, as long as our happiness and sense of self-worth doesn't depend on it.
Don't be dependent on material things.
And just cut the cords.
Diana
They're
and
called entrapments.
All right, we'll catch up with you later on in the show. In a few moments, find out how you can use the spiritual laws of creation to create success in your life. You're back on 3 Talk. I'm Noeleen. The word abundance means flowing with love, happiness, prosperity, success, laughter, generosity, and vitality. By accessing the law of abundance, you can attract all of these things in your life. Please welcome Lerato Molefe, Sherpenhazen, Asangoma, and welcome back, Lionel. Now, what are the laws of creation?
Noeleen, you know, I've been sitting there and listening, and I couldn't help but think of the way we were brought up in our homes, with the traditions that we had in our homes. And every single thing that Diana has been mentioning were taught to us in our homes as we grew up. To create abundance, if you would probably ask Diana or Lionel, they would put it through to you in a spiritual manner. A lot of people, black people, hardly ever think of that. A law of abundance within our families is how do you handle your finances? You remember that back home when money came in and mom and dad sat down and they would budget. What is going to be spent on what? How much is going to pay for fees, and how much is going to be saved in order to later on buy a piece of furniture. So when I went through these laws, I couldn't but help going back, right back to where I come from, where we have not strengthened our spirituality to a level of interpreting these laws the way they're being interpreted right now.
But these laws have been there.
Yes.
We may be saying them in different words, but they have, I mean, Darren has been saying that these laws could be practiced differently in different cultures, in different religions, but they come down to the same thing.
Yes.
We all practice these laws, don't we?
Exactly. But this is what I understand by a law of abundance.
Abundance.
Yes.
The law of attention.
The law of attention for me means that where you give attention, energy flows. So if, for example, I'm focusing on a particular thing, and it's very interesting because now I'm going to introduce just a little bit of shamanic belief here, that one of the shaman beliefs, underlying shaman beliefs of how we make ourselves ill or how we disadvantage ourselves is that we focus on that which is not working. And the more you focus on that which is not working, so you're giving the attention to it, indeed you begin in a way to create it. What happens is that I believe the universe wants to prove you right all the time. So if you believe this is a lousy place to be in, well, you're going to be proved right in some way or other. You'll find as many millions of things to prove yourself, to prove to yourself that what I believe it's a terrible place is a terrible place, or it's a beautiful place, or whatever.
Right.
So where you directing your energies tends to become the focus and therefore the creation of your reality.
So what you think will be reality. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely.
So if I think that I'm going to, this is what's going to happen to me, I will direct my energies to that, and that's going to happen.
I'm not so sure that it's what you're thinking. It's more, it works more on an emotional belief system. Like for example, if I talk about the abundance story.
Right.
If I say to myself, I've got to get more money. You see, the money is running low. I'm giving my attention to the lowness of the money, and I'm thinking I need to get more money. But what I am actually doing is focusing on the lack of what I have. So as I focus on the lack of what I have, I seem to just keep on being in lack. Whatever happens, I'm in lack. I can't do anything about it. But if I kind of transcend that a little bit, and I begin to say, okay, let me start to look at the abundance that I have. Let me give attention and focus to the things that I do have, whether it be my health or whether it be my family or whether it be whatever. The tree in the garden is part of my abundance. And if I'm giving that kind of attention, then indeed I begin to see my world quite differently.
How do you see the law of abundance?
I feel that the universe will present you with what you need. But one of the things in the world that actually brings a blockage to that is how I use it. I believe, for example, even money, and particularly money, I believe that any resource that you abuse, the law of life will take it away from you.
What do you mean abuse?
Okay.
So
for
if you buy
example,
too many shoes and clothes, for
like
instance.
for example, money. I'm just using money as an example because it's energy as well.
Right.
I can use that money for things that are worthwhile. And if I use my money, I invest my money in the things that bring value into my life. If I use my money to create a sense of life for somebody, then I'm using my money worthwhile. Very often today in the world, people do have cash, but they abuse their cash on things that brings more negativity in their life. Anything in life, the universe will present you with resources. In the world, we have amazing resources, but why aren't they working for us? Because we are not using them properly. It's about purifying the resources that we have. It's about using the energy in the right way. And then they will serve you, and it will then multiply.
I distinctly remember my parents saying, God has created such abundance and beauty in this world that it should be enjoyed by each and every one of us equally.
You see, also, I mean, if I look at, say, some of the people that come to see me, I mean, I've got a lot of very, very wealthy people who would come and see me, but that certainly doesn't guarantee their happiness. It doesn't guarantee that they are problem-free. It doesn't guarantee that there's that they even see themselves as abundant. So for me, it's the attachment, and I think Diana mentioned it, and others mentioned Darren. mentioned that attachment to that thing. I've got to get that desperation, that attachment, that truly is not fulfilling. It's not a fulfilling.
You'll end up dying a very unhappy person.
Well, yeah, you're going to have a situation where where nothing becomes satisfactory. Anything. I mean, you're just living in this lack, in this poverty of spirit.
Right. Let's look at other laws. The law of intention.
Yes, I believe within the law of intention that ultimately what's in your heart will always come through. And I have seen many times that maybe verbally and outwardly certain things may not be the way you think they should be or you want them to be. But for me, what is always important, and I ask my own heart, is do I keep that clean? If I have the right feelings inside my being, and again, I have seen that when you hold clean feelings, right feelings inside of you, your intention is pure and good. Once again, it will manifest. It may not manifest the way you think it should, but I've seen in my life, and I've seen in the lives of people around me, that when you hold the right feelings, with no ulterior motives, we live in this world with too many hidden agendas, and that makes life so complicated.
Yes.
And yet life can be so simple, so beautiful, so powerful, and it can serve you. Just keep this clean. That's all.
I love what Dipti's saying here, but also you see where I think there's a little bit of confusion with like intention or giving attention to things, is that we think it's what we're thinking. You see, nobody kind of sits around and says, you know, I think I'll win the lotto next week, and they do. It's got much more than that. And the words that she was using, if you actually listen to what she was was talking about feelings. It's what you're feeling. It's not what you're thinking, because your mind can really boggle things up. But when you actually get back to your real source energy, what is the center core of my being feeling? Then you arrive at a certain truth of what you can create, what is for your higher good. There's an intention of purity in that. The mind is not scheming, you see.
You're just a pure person at the end of the...
It's a center of being.
Yeah. Dipti, thank you very much for joining us on 3 Talk.
Noeleen.
We're not live tonight, so we can't take your calls or your SMSs. When we return, find out more on the laws of miracles, faith and gratitude. Welcome back to 3 Talk. I'm Noeleen. Diana Cooper says in her book, A Little Lighter on the Spiritual Laws, that the law of gratitude brings untold blessings to you, and by counting these blessings, you will watch them multiply. Diana, welcome back. Now, let's talk about the laws of higher frequency.
Everything has a frequency, and a higher frequency dissolves a lower frequency. So if you've been very unhappy, then look within to see what your hurts are, what your griefs are, what your angers are, and those are low frequency. And start forgiving, releasing, sending out love, blessing what you do have, which are higher frequency, and they will dissolve those lower frequency things in your life and change them. And then miracles start to happen.
The laws of miracles. How do you understand this?
Once more, in our tradition, whenever we have friction in our families, you know, we hold a family in Davos. We sit here and we discuss. And for me, what Diana has just said, it's very, very similar to release. She called it frequency. I call it to release the negativity, to release the pain, so that we are on a plain, peaceful level. And we do solve our problems like that, even today in our families.
Right. Your understanding of the laws of miracles?
For me, I like the word miracle because it says mirror. It has a quality of a mirror in it. And if one sees a miracle as something that is above and beyond the ordinary, really, I mean, that's how it happens, then you are seeing almost a reflection of your perfection, if you like, your own inner perfection manifesting outside of yourself. And that's how I like to see miracles. So when I define a miracle, I'm not looking at, I think Darren used the word wow experience, you know, wow, this is a miracle. I think that miracles happen in sometimes very quiet ways, very subtle and gentle ways.
But it's an individual thing.
And
because
it's an individual
thing.
thing.
My miracle could be a big miracle, and yours could be a small miracle, and vice
Or it
versa.
could be even a big miracle for me, but if I tell somebody about it, they say it's a big deal,
Yeah,
you know.
it's
But it's not a big deal.
yeah.
For me, it was a big deal because it kind of mirrored a part of me that maybe sometimes I forget. And
Right.
that's why it's beyond the ordinary.
And how would you describe the laws of miracles?
Well, I'd say it was something that you couldn't normally see happening physically, happens due to the transcendent laws. And for instance, love can create a miracle. Pure love can heal somebody's body and enable them to let go of a pain that they've had for years and years and years. All kinds of spiritual healing tend to be miracles because the higher energies coming through the physical body are sweeping out the lower and enable that person to heal. When you, a very simple case of a teacher who was very, very scared of teaching. She was just a new teacher. The children were absolutely horrible to her. And I said to her, they're picking up your energy. Let's change your lower energy of fear to a higher energy of confidence. And we asked her to talk to the angels of all the children. And next day, she went in confident, and every single child has been wonderful to her ever since. Now that's a little miracle.
You wanted to say something?
For me, a miracle is when I have been working for many years to achieve something. And because you were focusing, all of a sudden something happens. And you start meeting the right people. And you start getting to the right places. It's been phenomenal for me at this very moment. That is a miracle for me. That is how I understand it.
Law of purification.
Law of purification, I'm not quite sure how to define it. I talk a lot about purification myself. It's for me is the idea of, in a way, feeling that you can use your energies in a way that relates to intention, that relates to attraction, that relates to creation, in a way that has a higher good attached to it. So sometimes we go through rituals of purification, and those rituals of purification are not in themselves the end. The rituals help you to perhaps get the feeling, the understanding of the purity of one's own being in a way, and then it clears you for that manifestation of what is for your higher good. I keep coming back to what is for your higher good.
I am going to speak from a perspective of a Sangoma when it comes to purification. And indeed, we do use certain herbs to purify.
Yes.
But also what we do to enhance that, we do communicate with our ancestors.
Yes.
We communicate everything to them, our problems, what we need to do about them, and ask for their help. So still you are helping your client to be connected to something, whether you want to call it a God, whether you want to call it an ancestor. To me, we are all connected, you know, and if you believe in God, then you will go there. But if you believe in your ancestors as well, if it saves you somehow, you will stick to that.
Okay.
Can I just say something about that? Darkness serves the light, and it serves to purify us, Because if something, a really heavy, dark thing happens in your life, then you need to look at how you attracted it and purify your energy so that you learn from it. And that's how it works. And in the angel way of doing things, I would suggest to people that they, before they go to sleep at night, if they want purification and clarity, that they ask to go to Archangel Gabriel during their sleep state and ask for a purification to take place on them. And they may need to do this several times, and they will come out with a dream. Remember when I was trying to purify from something and somebody was sending me a lot of anger and I felt very bad about it, and I asked for purification, and I dreamt that I was walking through a fire and that I left behind a pile of ash and emerged as a different person. And so it's a very concrete way of doing things. They can also write down their angers and their hurts and all the things they want to let go of and burn them in a fire, and then that energy will be purified.
Law of, let's move on to the law of perspective.
Yeah.
You do. Law of perspective.
Everything has a perspective, and you can look at things in many different ways. So 3 or 4 people may be looking at a bowl of fruit, for instance, and one person sees the apples because they're looking from this side, and another person sees the banana because they're looking for that from that side. Spirituality sees the whole bowl of fruit, but honor what everybody perceives because that is right for them at that time.
Law of gratitude.
Absolutely. The law of gratitude for me is something also that I'm quite pushy on, is that when we forget to acknowledge what is there for us, when we forget to acknowledge spirit, when we forget to acknowledge our own contributions to the world and other people's contributions to the world, again, we place ourselves in an impoverishment of spirit. So gratitude, for me, the law of gratitude says it's a graciousness. It's about finding grace with what you are living and what is being given to you and what you are perceiving in the world, and finding that grace within that.
Back home once more, Noeleen, you know that bulela, say thank you. And you were taught even to take with both hands. Don't take with one hand.
Yes.
Use both hands. That's all it means to me. You know, and we think of such things back home so simply. And now you are sitting here, they are being dissected, people go deeper, they go to the level of spirituality. It's beautiful.
Yes.
So it is just as simple as saying thank you. And what the people don't understand is that when you bless your food and say thank you for it, then the food comes alive. And they've taken aura photographs and Kirlian photographs of food that isn't blessed, and the same food after it's been blessed, as simple as saying thank you, and the food just radiates with life force afterwards. When people understand this, they see the purpose of blessing
saying
it.
grace and
Yes,
saying thank you.
Absolutely.
Bulela, as you say.
Yeah.
We're going to say thank you very much for joining us, Lerato, as usual. Thank you. We are not live tonight, so we can't take your calls or SMSs. Next up, more spiritual laws and how these laws can help you create the life that you dreamt of. This is Free Talk every weekday at 5:30. Today we're speaking about the spiritual laws of the universe. Darren, welcome back to the show. At this particular time of the year, as we're going into the new year, are there any special, specific laws that we should really be keeping in our minds?
Well, I think 2 that stick out, which we have discussed before, is the law of purification, a purification process, and then a law of intention, what our intention is for the coming year. And with that is really to keep it very basic in the beginning, because sometimes we set ourselves up to fail. We set ourselves up for these huge intentions for the coming year, which we never succeed, we don't reach them, and then we just start feeling bad, and the lower energies come in, and that just causes a spiral.
But whose fault is that? Is it the world energy or your energy, or Or what is causing that?
Well, it's our energy. And I mean, we can go with the energies of the year. This is a changing of time in energies of the year right now. On an energy level, the year ends and starts roughly around this time, not in December. So the year, the energy is shifting into a new year at the moment. So really the law of intention is to just set, and just very simple laws of intention. That would be the thing. Otherwise it is. Otherwise, like I say, we set ourselves up to become despondent.
I like the idea of, if we are setting intentions, you know, I think Darren's right. We sometimes set ourselves up for failure. So, you know, you get your New Year's resolutions, well, they last 2 days, and then you sort of feel a bit of a failure on this because you're not doing it. But even if one goes to qualities, okay, so this year, to set yourself the idea that become a little bit more aware of compassion, become a little bit more aware of forgiveness, become a bit more aware of love in your life. Just an awareness of that. You don't have to focus on whether you're going to eat more or less or do or whatever, because those qualities will help you to get to those other things. But it's the qualities that you need in the first instance before you can actually get to those other things.
Right. And for you, Diana?
Well, I'd say if you want to do something, it doesn't have such a strong energy charge as intending to do it. If you intend to do it, your mind is focused, you have clarity, which is most important, and then you get it, because your whole being is focused in that direction.
Let's talk about some more laws. The law of ascension.
The law of ascension, as I understand it, and maybe Diana can correct me on this, but for me it is about the idea of getting to the bigger picture. It's about coming in, and it's maybe seeing the bowl of fruit rather than the separate entities within that. To be able to say that if I can transcend and get above what is actually happening here. When I'm mixing in the mud with the pigs, then I'm in the mud with the pigs. But if I can actually stand above that and ask for Spirit to give me a bigger picture on that, then indeed I begin to ascend. The consciousness grows, and I believe that's where I would put it.
Let's just talk very briefly about the law of love.
Well, love is love. It's opening your heart center and loving people unconditionally and situations. So it's not judging, not criticizing, just accepting things exactly as they are.
But even, Diana, when someone is really doing something really bad to you and you are so angry, you still love the person?
If somebody is doing something really bad to you and you're angry, then it's your problem. If somebody's angry with me and I am bothered by it, then I need to look at the part of me that's bothered, shift that with purification and understanding, and then if they're still angry, I can move away and learn my lesson. But generally, if I send back love because I understand myself and understand why I've attracted it, then that person will change towards me. They may act in the same way towards everybody else, but towards me they will change, because when your heart center is open, it's very difficult for someone else to keep their heart closed when they're with you.
Right.
Can I say, come back to that original law that was discussed, as within, so without. That when somebody is angry with you, for me it's not about changing their anger, it's about looking at me. So if I'm prepared to turn inwards and look at me, then I can change me, and I change me to change the world. I don't change the world. I have to change me to change the world. So that's a very important part of it.
And I think an important, to add to all of this, which is exactly right, is you don't have to allow the person to step on your head either. You can also choose not to participate. But by looking inwards, you're not taking it personally. So what actually happens on an energetic level, if you are participating with their anger and reacting to it, you hook into them energetically.
Right.
By looking within, you cut that.
Right.
And therefore, you're not taking it personally, looking at yourself, but you're not blaming yourself. It's not saying that, oh, you're angry, it's all my fault. You're just looking at what's going on with yourself within that anger but you can also choose not to participate. You don't have to say, I love you, so you can stand on my head.
Right.
You know,
Don't
it's
participate.
really about opening your heart to loving yourself, which just stops the anger immediately.
The
Yes.
law of non-judgments, of no judgments.
If you don't judge somebody, they feel safe with you, and then they're going to react from their true heart self.
Is it possible, though, to act, because we, as beings, we judge all the time?
The final law is the law of one. We are all part of the oneness. We are all aspects of the divine, and that is the energy of pure love. And when we remember that and live in that ocean of love, then the whole world will be at peace, and we will ascend into something higher.
That's what I love about the angels and the guides, because they come with that absolute non-judgment, unconditionality. And if one can take time to put oneself in that energy, then you do get a transcendent picture. Then you do feel that even somebody who you might have judged and might have thought was a bad person or a bad whatever, if you can see the bigger picture on that, and it comes from that guide angel energy, it just becomes such a superlative feeling of being able to say, okay, I can see where you're coming from, and I kind of know where you're coming from, and it reduces that judgment. I believe I'm fallible. Let me talk for myself. I'm fallible, so I fall into the judgment, and I do. But Kurt, as I refer to my guide, always brings me back to look at it from a different point of view. Let's have a look, and there's that beautiful non-judgment, and then you say, okay. All right, we can do that. So they will help you. And I believe Spirit does help us to do that when we set our intention for that.
Very quickly, Diana, how do you begin to practice these laws? 20 seconds.
20 seconds, just open your heart and start loving and being there in the moment, every single moment.
Well,
Live in
thank
the
you
now.
Thank you so much for coming, and I've really, really enjoyed these, and I'm going to practice these laws. We'd love to hear from you. Should you wish to make contact with us, please email 3talk@urbanroot.co.za. For more on our guests, you can go to www.sabc3.co.za. You've been watching 3 Talk with Noeleen. From all of us at 3 Talk, you have a fantastic evening.